Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. There is frustration and anger over the NEET paper leaks. Young lives and aspirations have been lost. And while there are protests and politics, we must make a genuine attempt to address the core problems in our education system and competitive exam structure too. NewsX is starting an earnest mission bringing together educationists, technologists, policymakers, the best minds from all over the world to identify these systemic issues, try and build a national dialogue to solve them, and also study best foolproof case studies from around the world. We will then put together a mission charter and push for its implementation, hoping to build the world's best exam system. Gangs cannot be allowed to defraud the honest efforts of our youth. You can join the campaign by writing to us, tweeting to our social media handles, and sending us suggestions. Together we can. Let's listen in to what both Sonam Wangchuk and CJP spokesperson Saurav Das have stated in the last 12 hours.
आज 26वें दिन मैं आप लोगों को कुछ ख़ास खबर बताना चाहूँगा। अभी रात के लगभग 12:30 बज रहे हैं। अभी थोड़ी देर पहले केंद्रीय मंत्री जेपी नड्डा साहब और जितेंद्र सिंह साहब यहाँ आए थे और लद्दाख के एपेक्स बॉडी के शीर्ष नेतागण भी यहाँ आए थे। और उससे पहले आप लोगों को मालूम है विभिन्न राजनीतिक दलों के लगभग 65 सांसदों ने आकर और हस्ताक्षर देकर हमसे अनशन तोड़ने के लिए कहा और वो संसद में इस
atmosphere. We told them about our three main demands. The most non-negotiable demand is Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation or him being fired from the cabinet. Number two is the 1 crore compensation for the families of the dead NEET victims. And number three is that the FIRs that have been filed, 11 as per our last count, those FIRs have to be withdrawn and a sovereign guarantee has to come from the government that they won't proceed against any peaceful protesters or organizers in the future. That sovereign guarantee has to come. At the same time, we also told them about the further talks that we want to have with them on the 5-point policy demand charter that we had launched many days ago. That is to change holistically and foundationally the education system and to address the paper leaks. Along with this, we also told the government about the many instances of detention of young people in Delhi who were either on their way to Jantar Mantar or were going away from Jantar Mantar with food and other things. These young people have been detained and they have continuing to detain them since yesterday. The government told us, both ministers, Nadda and Jitendra Singh ji, they told us that nothing of this sort is happening. However, there are instances, and for that they said that they are sure that nothing like this will happen from now on. So, going back.
Dr. S. Venkateshwara Sharma, former Deputy Director ISRO, is joining us live on the broadcast. Dr. Sharma, thank you for being with us on NewsX. What do you believe are the steps needed, the earnest steps currently to reform our education system in the country? What would be the solutions you advise and you would vouch for?
Good evening to you and the million viewers of NewsX. It is always a pleasure to be among you. As a scientist, I have learned one simple lesson over my four decades of my experience. A nation doesn't become a developed nation because it is conducting examination, but it becomes a developed nation only when it conducts an examination and identifies the right talent, and the examinations are fair, transparent and consistent. And also we must necessarily note that the talents what the country needs is not coming out from parliament or from the laboratory, but it is necessarily coming from the classrooms, school rooms, and such of those places where the students participate. And those students have to be necessarily given the fair chance for their education, fair writing the examinations, etc., etc. is there.
Dr. Yes.
One examination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Look, an examination, in my opinion, my very personal opinion of my 40 years of experience in rocketry and also education system, where I had literally contributed myself in establishing various exams in the country, such as the GATE, the JEE, and many other national level examinations, and it has been reformed and evolved over 2+ decades. My humble and sincere view is that an examination should necessarily not decide the life or future of a student, and there must be necessarily an opportunity for a student, or whatever the way the examinations are conducted. It necessarily should not be bringing such a huge pressure that an examination is gone and I am out of the market type of feeling should never be there in any student, and that type of pressure would really literally cause havoc in the system. This is one. Second thing is also that the students also should never feel that an examination has gone well or not gone well is the end of their life. No, that is not what it is. And an examination has gone well or not well, still there is, the life is long, and nobody can change anybody's character, nobody can change their intelligence, or nobody can change anybody's caliber, etc. is there. And a person who is really who is caliber will always pick up and come up in life. Of course, I am not saying that the opportunity should not be denied. Fair opportunity should necessarily be given to the students. If you see even the recent rocketry where we had successful Vikram 1 launch, the founders, if you see, it is not that they are from very high profile college or they had very high educational backgrounds or anything like that. There was a confession by one of those Vikram founders that I got only 45 marks in mathematics and I was not really doing very well. Then I completed my engineering, then I did my MTech, joined ISRO, and I was not happy. Then I left. Therefore, it is not just that an examination should decide about how much marks a student should score. Of course, that is the baseline required. Some baseline is required. Therefore, marks is necessarily a baseline. But that alone is not something which decides anybody's career, anybody's future.
So you believe there should be less pressure on one exam, less importance given to one exam, and a more cumulative structure of multiple exams and other, group discussions, possibly interviews, other aspects as well?
It need to be worked out. See, it is not that the country had not had national level exams. I made a mention about the JEE. I made a mention about JEE Advanced, where more than 5 to 10 lakh students appear every year, and they are screened, and they are getting admitted to various IITs and national IITs, IASCs, and other national institutes. And here the examination levels are different. Let's say there is JEE and JEE Advanced, and there is one more opportunity. Like that, there are several ways that the examination are structured in such a way that the students would not really have the type of pressure that they would feel otherwise, that there is only one exam I should get through, I will not get through. And being an engineering background, I had very in-depth knowledge and in-depth access to this education system. That's why I'm making this statement. And also, if you see a student from Karnataka, not just the JEE or JEE Advanced or BITS Pilani examination or any other university, there is what is called a CET exams, Comet exams, and local exams are also available for them to have an opportunity in case if they miss the national opportunity or anything like that. Therefore, I'm not saying that this is the way or this is the other way, but there are several ways that an examination can be structured so that this pressure on the students are less. And our intention must be only to find the best talent in the country and give them the good opportunity. Not that, keep the pressure on them and keep them under tension, the parents, etc. And, getting into the issues that what we have got into now is something which we necessarily need to address. And we have to take, a roll forward in such a way that the right minds, look, whichever the way it is, the right set of people should get involved in doing all these activities. Student life is very important. The career is important. Please don't take me otherwise by repeatedly quoting the JEE and JEE Advanced, etc. is there. The amount of effort which has gone into setting up those exams are extremely high. I myself was personally involved from 2000.
Now also let me ask you, Dr. Sharma, this push to go digital. Do you believe digitization of exams will help? Can we make the system go completely digital? Like how we digitize payments with UPI. Can we digitize exams? Will that make us plug the leaks, the gaps?
Excellent question. Okay, it is not the question of whether it is paper exam or paperless exam. Okay, we had paper exams and we had been doing extremely well in JEE paper exams as well. But we have moved from paper exam to paperless exam. There are advantages as well as there are disadvantages. If you say paper exams, children are very comfortable in because they are all in the schools, and they are using the papers, pens, and writing exams, and they are not something which are the last exams are only gadgets friendly, etc. Is that right? It has its own advantage for the student in terms of the comfort, in terms of the papers, and even the setting up of the paper, etc. There is an advantage definitely. But and also that you can reach the last mile. Even the village, you don't have to worry whether they have the gadgets, etc. That they are convenient, comfortable, etc. And they can reach the last mile of last student in the country for doing exams with the paper. But the challenge is, of course, the leak, the way we are observing the leak, and the way the logistic issues, the transportation issues, the paper issues, and the whole lot of those issues are also there. But it is not that it can be brushed out. A paper exam can also be a good exam, number one. Number two, as far as let me continue if you give me a minute more. If you see the digital examination, of course, many of the exams have already moved over to digital exam. Even if you see the international level also, TOEFL, GRE, or CAT, or even our own exams have moved over to digital exams, and it has its own advantages as well. Because see, beyond anything, the mentality of the entire set of dispensation in setting up the paper, doing the exam, then evaluation, identify the right one. That mindset is important. Then we can decide about it.
Also, we must increase seats. We must increase seats, isn't it? Seats at our colleges.
Sorry?
Dr. Sharma, we must increase seats at our colleges, the number of students admitted.
Look, if you see, please don't mistake me. I'm going back to the engineering line because I am very convenient, comfortable, and I had worked in the engineering examination education system for more than 22 decades. Therefore, I'm saying increasing the seats is only one part. Okay, say for example, IITs, the seats were doubled, and also many IITs were set up by this present dispensation. If you see from 2014 to now, many colleges have been coming up, and the seats have been increased. This is one part. Second part, if you see, the existing education system, the private institutions have graduated themselves to such an extent that they are equal to or better than IITs, many engineering colleges. Say for example, BITS Pilani, or even Karnataka level, if you see, RV College, or PES College, or Ramaya College, there are students who get selected in IIT JEE. If they get a selection, this go, and also SRM College. No, there are many. I should not mention specific names because I am not biased or anything like that. But it is a question of not only increasing the seats, it is a question of increasing the education quality in the system. And students should have a choice. Okay, it is not just that I have 100 medical colleges or whatever it is by government dispensation, and I have only that choice. No, it is not like that. There must be participation of the private institutions, private players, and the quality education system. And that is the case. Then nobody cares for any other even the standard national level exams are also many students who are in the engineering level, they are opting to go for.
Okay, my final question to you, Dr. Sharma, my final question to you is on now the measures already enacted as well. Fast track courts, strengthening of the law as we are expecting will happen as well next week. Is that important? We must ensure stringent punishment for the the convicted individuals in paper leak cases. Is that the need of the hour? Fast track courts, trials must be expedited as well.
Look, this we are talking about keeping the example of this paper leak and the entire dispensation, the noise and the trouble and the issues that has been faced by the children, the parents, and the various agencies. The issue doesn't really get solved by strengthening some of these measures. Of course, they are required. I'm not saying that it is not required if the leak happens, but why at all the leak should happen? See, whenever there is a rocket, I am a rocket scientist. For last 40 years, I am a rocket scientist. I can give you an example. If a rocket fails, it is not that we find a person who did the mistake. No, we find the problem in the entire mission. Where do they think? Whenever there is a failure in a rocket, we always go back to what we call the root cause analysis and the process. In the process, if it fails, whoever sits in the process, he becomes a culprit. Therefore, My suggestion is, of course, it is required to strengthen the law,
Okay.
rules, etc., is there.
Okay.
But strengthening the education system, the examination system,
That
and
is the need of the hour. That is the need of the hour. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Thank you for joining us with your perspective. Okay. Let me also bring in Adit Kothari, international affairs expert, who's joining us live. Also with us, Manasvi Thapar, political analyst. Manasvi Thapar, fast track courts announced, strict action promised against the accused. Also a stronger law, perhaps, that will be brought in Parliament on Monday itself. No coercive action against students and protesters. Is this enough now? Is this enough? Should the protests end? Manasvi?
Am I audible?
Absolutely.
I think it's a great beginning, but I don't know how far this is going to go and how far that is going to be implemented. I think it's too late, too little to be done, but I think it's a good start for the students. It's a great hope for the students. But having said that, I think it has so much to do. I think we still don't have a leak-proof system. We have to have a leak-proof system. We need to hold responsibilities. We need to hold accountability. While that has still not been addressed, I think in a large democracy with so much of tools and things which India has now, we cannot let our youth be dishaheen. We need to have proper directions for our youth, and that is something which the Prime Minister have to walk the talk. And these youth have also been the first voters of the first voting whenever they have done. The Prime Minister have said it openly and very confidently. Your first vote has to go to Narendra Modi, and people have voted for him and voted in power, and people believed him. And while this kind of a conduct of Prime Minister and his government is something which is not going to go good with Gen Zs, more particularly as voters. So the first time voters, the second time voters now are going to be against Prime Minister Narendra Modi, because it's too little which has been done. Like while we can only dream of a good system, but in the last 12 years, what we have seen, we have more than 150 plus paper leaks happening in our country, and that cannot be tolerated. It's the future of our country which is at risk, and we cannot let that happen. All they are asking is that we need to have a leak-proof system, and why can't that would have been delivered? If that could not have been delivered, there could be problems in the system. But the action, the intent is something which was not seen. Though the atmosphere, the ecosystem around has been the Prime Minister and that they will deliver, but when it comes to delivery counts, something has not been worked out. If I'll say about Ram Mandir or something, this would be digressing to other topics, but that is not the agenda. But you talk about delivery, the Prime Minister somehow is failing on delivery. He gives a next goalpost, and this is something the Gen Zs are not going to take it up. Why? Because Gen Zs have been trained. Is a generation where delivery is instant, where dating is instant, where friendship is instant, everything is instant for them. They want something, they get Blinkit or Instamart within 5 minutes. They want Amazon, they want Prime delivery every time. So they are into that attitude of getting instant justice also. So they are expecting immediate transparency. They are expecting immediate justice from the system, while the system is failing them day and night. And this kind of tear gas and this kind of lathi charge, this is not something they are trained with. They have made they're good at memes. We thought the same system thought that these are not constructive youth, while they have proved out that what kind of a protest can be with the lathi charge, tear gas which have been thrown on them. They have made memes out of it, they have made fun out of it, and now they're marching ahead. And now if they're asking for a foolproof system with checks and balances, with holding responsible people accountable when they are not being accountable, I think that's a fair ask. And it should have been done, I think, 20 days
to you,
back.
Adit Kothari, as well. Adit Kothari, these are steps taken. They are the right steps, says Manasvi Thapar. He believes, though, much more is needed. What is your view, Adit Kothari? And do you believe an overhaul of the education system has begun? Is the need of the hour and has begun?
Well, I would agree with the previous speaker. I would concur with the motion that it's a little too late. When it comes down to accountability, I think we've left things lingering for way too long. When the 2024 JEE leaks happened, you set up a commission. You set up the Radhakrishnan Commission. The advisories that came out of that commission was to basically digitize, to go paperless, to hold higher accountability standards. You completely ignored those advisories, and as a consequence, we are where we are. And today we are expediting those very advisories that those were issued in 2024. Now, as a consequence, we have taken education as a very non-serious subject, which should have been one of the highest transparency. We are looking at accountability, transparency, because this is for the future of our lives, for the lives of the young people in the country. The reason why banks take fraudulent transactions so seriously is because money is involved here, people, which we are not taking very seriously, and that is where the fundamental issue is. However, the disagreement that I have with the previous speaker is about the way the protests have been conducted. It was allowed to be hijacked by everybody else apart from the student agenda, which is why the main crux of the agenda was completely sidelined as a consequence. The nation state of India has very strict red lines. Within those red lines, within those parameters, you can sit and you can disagree, you can have your grievances, you can protest, but the red lines are when it comes down to national integrity and the nation state itself. So when in the garb of student protests, if you're going to be marching and scaling up the Sansad Bhavan and you're going to be scaling up on barricades, that is the red line of the national integrity, which I think was breached. And for that, the organizers must be held culpable and responsible as a consequence. In India, there are always going to be challenges. There are 24 lakh candidates aspiring for 1 lakh jobs when it comes to the NEET exams. For the JEE,
yes, which is why I said
roughly
earlier
about
also
13 lakhs.
perhaps the seats also need to be increased as well. The number of students
Absolutely,
taken
because
and
the
number
UPSC, if you look at
yes.
the UPSC examinations, there's 10 to 13 lakh applications, if I'm not wrong, and there are only 1,000 candidates which are selected. So how are we going to, this is almost like a competitive debt battle that a student goes into year on year sort of a method. And that's very unfair. If you look at the Western world, what the Western world has done is, if you look at the United States, they have the SAT examinations plus your school examinations, which they combine. And, the students are giving repeated chances to sort of prove their ability, because having just one examination, they could be having a bad day on that particular day, and that could hamper the results. So that entire overall of the system is need
Okay.
of the hour, because the education needs to become a political agenda, which rightfully it has, and the parties at the helm of affairs, both from an opposition perspective and the ruling party perspective,
Do you believe
need
then?
to take
Do you believe
subject
then that
very
it's and we've seen already Sonam Wangchuk, call off his hunger strike as well. He's ended that fast, of course, of his. Do you believe then perhaps it's time for the protest to end as well, Adit, with these changes now set into motion?
Well, I think that I will leave to the whims and fancies and the intellect of the organizers. I don't know what they actually have from an objective perspective. Is it just the education reform? Because at this point, the feeling I get is they're asking for Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. I don't think that resignation is going to fix the issue. That is like the band-aid on the
Okay,
cancer.
the ball has been set rolling. The ball has been set rolling. Manasvi Thapar, is it time then for the protests to end? Is it time for trust for both sides? Kiran Rijiju says the trust needs to be there on both sides. The government is listening to the students also must respond. Is it time then for the protests to end? Sona, I beg your pardon, Manasvi.
I think it has to be walk the talk for the government as of now. The trust can only be from the both side when the one side which has been protesting has been given has been denied its true right, and once the right has been established by the government, it is only the government which will take action on those people who are responsible. So tweeting that fast track courts will be established, and actually establishing it's a good amount of distance which we have to cover as of now. So I think we need to walk the talk. What we are saying have to be delivered for the students, and only then I think it is right for the protesters to end it up and trusting the government. I know for hundreds and hundreds of days farmers were protesting and this government did not do anything, and hundreds of people died in the farmers protest. This government did not do anything until the elections were around the corner. So trusting cannot happen when your delivery has been so weak and your intent has not been so very clear. So now after 12 years you cannot be blaming the UPA 1-2 or the Congress or Jawaharlal Nehru as of now. I think you have been given enough time in this government. People have been trusting you since last 12 years, and it is time for you to deliver. And this is not a very big protest which will take you down. It is only about your delivery, and intent can happen immediately. You don't want to let Dharmendra Pradhan be out of the ministry. That's okay. You don't want that pressure politics to happen to you. You want to show that the government is very strong. That is understandable. But what about the accountability of those people who have been involved in the leakage? So put them behind the bars. Make sure there is an airtight.
No, but hasn't that happened? Hasn't that happened? Those who are accused have been arrested. Manasvi.
Announcement.
Also, the education secretary has been removed. There's been a complete overhaul in the other positions as well in the education ministry. That happened last night, Manasvi.
We know there is an education mafia which has been working, which gets the paper before the paper is even published. So we know that has happened. So
okay, so more is needed is what you're saying. All right, more is needed what you're saying. We're out of time. My thanks to you, Manasvi, and to Adit, but I'll ask